Welcome everyone to our chapter 20 joining for chapter 20 pairs. So I was talking to Jesus about this joining, and he was just saying, let me do all the talking. And this is your natural, this is what's most natural for you, is to share your experience of having a conversation with me, what you're learning. So that's what we do with chapter 20. We just go through each belief and each desire line by line with him and let him guide us through it. And so this session is just to share our experiences with that. So
that's Renee, I'm Mary. In case you don't know. And we have Doug's over here too.
Yep. And we are at the Joining in Light Devotional Center right now.
In Mexico, San Juan Cosala. So welcome, welcome.
The first thing I was hearing actually was that we have been, the theme of our joinings recently has been the last unanswered question, saying yes to that with our whole heart. And that's what chapter 20 is, going through these desires together, is looking at every desire that we have in the light of truth, and seeing where we are saying no to our divine nature. So we had some questions that we are just going to look at in this joining. And I got to pull them up on my computer because I don't have them right in front of me. But here we go.
So one of the questions was, what has Jesus been telling you?
Yeah, what desires did you look at with Jesus this week? What did he teach you about these desires? And are there some desires that seemed easier or harder to release to miracles? I've been joining with my partner, Melissa, this week, which has been beautiful. And we are doing the deep dive together. And we looked at the desire. I looked with her at the desire to reject myself. That's the short version of that desire. And what I'm learning is that I have this desire, and that it's a continuous, it's a choice that I'm making on a regular basis. It's like a habit of rejecting myself and rejecting the light, or pushing the light out of awareness. And how, when I say yes to the last unanswered question, I'm willing to face that rejection and let it come into awareness fully, so that I can see that it's not serving me. To put any value in rejecting myself is just not serving me. or my brothers. So that's where I'm at with that right now. And one of the desires that seemed harder was the one about fear. You are very fearful of everything that you perceive, but have refused to accept as your own miscreation. So there's been a play of innocence, face of innocence, where I don't want to take responsibility for my desire for the experience. And then I get kind of like in fear mode, and then I don't want to look, and then I want to hide. And I've just noticed this pattern repeating. So chapter 20 is really, really helpful for this. It's saving a lot of time where I would go into fear and get lost in that. It's like join quickly in a moment of light and see, go below the fear right now, and see that it's a misperception, and that you're more powerful than this misperception. You can choose to see it another way. So it's like this with every desire in the chapter. There's sometimes a little bit of fatigue before we begin, or a little bit of fear, and so it's just again, the last unanswered question, saying yes and just going for it, regardless of what's showing up in form, and just making that commitment to myself, that this is more important than indulging in the desires, which is self-delusion. So it feels good just to say that. And I feel complete with my sharing. So, Mary, did you, or Doug's, or we have a beloved joining us here. Laura, did you want to share at this moment, or?
Sure. Welcome first, or hi. And first because I didn't come, I just wanted to say to you all, if you had made any preparations or done some work for that, I just wanted to acknowledge that, say thank you, and if needed, forgive me, and all of that. Just feel your heart.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we've just been absolutely relishing working with chapter 20. I'm partnered with Kathleen Powell, and right now for the week, I think you said, what desires are you working on this week? We're on page 110, and so we basically almost completed. We've got the last two that we haven't done yet. Today we were working on, you believe you need to do something to feel whole or complete. So you desire an experience where you feel you need to do something to feel whole and complete. And so, we do our deep dive and just gaze and, for me, I always, my first language is light. So, it's just like opening up the whole being and, sharing whatever that is, like vibrationally, anything that would feel that if there would be a fear around even sharing the desire. I think that's such a powerful piece of what Jesus is sharing through a new covenant, through everything, but getting that it's safe to admit, I think is the word you all use. I just say share what we might want to hold on to, we're too ashamed to share it, but we go, no, he wants us. He already knows we're in that space, and he's just like, open it up to me. And so he gives, with me, I get it much more as like this gazing at the variation of the frequencies that come in as I'm looking at the desire. Kathleen gets a lot of words and a lot of description from him. So it's a beautiful diversity of ways that information comes through. And I almost have to look at my notes to see what he shared. I take down sort of like dictation as Kathleen's talking, because I don't always do it when I'm sharing. But I loved this one actually because it feels very natural for me. I'm aware of the awareness and the presence of God. So it's like a breath of fresh air. It's like, yeah, absolutely. And the mind thinks it might have all these things to do to be valuable, and to just really relax into that. And then I was seeing, let me look again at my notes, because I had a question that immediately came up in my mind when I looked at the desire, where you need to do nothing. And it was kind of a funny question, because as it came up and I looked at it with him, I can see the answer, so to speak. And the question was, but Jesus asks us to share, that we need to share. And so I saw immediately the difference between the awareness of the wholeness, which is so natural. And then the song came, "Go Tell It on the Mountain." I heard it in my mind. Go tell it on the mountain. So that was beautiful. And then I saw that I was observing how there was a watching of a defensiveness, or it's hard to put words to, but I think that's probably the closest word, or explanation, and just watching that and doing nothing, staying in the wholeness, staying this exquisite awareness of the presence of God. And the smiling just is so exquisite, that just arises. And I can share some of, if you're interested, of what came up for Kathleen. Do you want to hear that or not? Because he gives just these gorgeous, gorgeous messages. Let's see. Oh, I know. Another thing that really came up for me a lot was this. It was like this inundation of being attacked. And so I was just watching all of these attacks coming at me and just watching it. And it's like, wow, So it's just like, keep showing that to him. That's just stuff coming up. There's no legitimacy to it whatsoever. Doing nothing about it, just letting it that come up out of and he's using the word rust with us, the last two joinings, that we're sort of scraping off the rust. Okay, I'm going to go down to Kathleen's. So Jesus said that Jesus said to her, the words aren't as important as you think they are. It's the shift. And he gave her the message this morning that she and the Father are one, you and the Father are one. And it sends her kind of to a place of, she calls it like being in grade school, where that would be blasphemy. You're fourth grade sitting in Catholic school, and if you said I and the Father are one, that would not be okay. And so seeing, that that sort of impression in her mind. He's talking about, okay, he was sharing where he gave her a message for me around the vibrational awareness, and that is a gift. And she was seeing the great rays, and that this beautiful vision of the great rays were kind of coming out like over the earth, like as a butterfly wings. And in the very center of that, like the center of the body of the butterfly, was the heart. And that was gorgeous. Okay, she said she knew this was a real biggie for the desire. This was the good one. Okay, so he gave her this image of a big old book that looked like it came from a tomb, and it was very thick. Kind of like something you'd see in the Raiders of the Lost Ark, because she gets words and she gets visuals. And she was seeing the pages opening and closing. And it was, the name of the book was the Book of Old Stories. The stories about myself and what I've used time and time again to feel like I'm whole and complete. And it's just a bunch of stories. Old psychological stories. And a lot of the stories around it kind of relates to what you saw, Renee, was the stories were like, don't draw attention to yourself. Keep a low profile. That's the way of God to God. You're female. Just this idea of really keeping yourself small. Just do the right thing. Keep the rules. Another one was keep yourself down so that you don't recognize who you are. She was seeing a sense of being mummified, mummifying her glory. She was seeing a form wrapped in sheets, like mummies. And she heard the words, the illusion wrapping tight. You see, this book is old and ancient. It's musty, it's crusty. These are the old pages again and again. And then she had a personal memory, which I won't share, but it was very relevant. I don't like to share people's personal things. Okay. But this book doesn't see with the eyes that are really yours. This is the book of stories. And then she said, there's a real charge on you and the Father are one. And he went into how there's a secrecy around that, and then gave her the image of the underbelly of a car, and that the tools that were being used to remove the rust under the car were also rusty. So using rusty tools to get at the rust, and to just and then he was sharing about, we can do, it can be painful or it doesn't have to be, and he's not asking it. He in no way is he requesting it to be painful for us to go through any of this. Is that too much information? I took a lot of time.
No, it's just very interesting because we pray at the center, of course, about which partners are to be matched up. So we have no investment in who gets matched up, but Jesus, Holy Spirit knows. And so what I hear from what you're saying, what I'm hearing is that this was another great match, that you each bring out, spirit and share and contribute to each other and to the whole. And it's just really beautiful. Not every set of partners has a somewhat different relationship or a different way in which Jesus speaks to them. And it's very individual, which to me is so beautiful, because Jesus has a plan for each one of us, because he knows exactly what we need to hear, who we need to join with in order to unwind all this belief we have in miscreation.
Beautifully said. Yeah.
I think it's also interesting. I think we're all, you and Doug's, and they are we're all on the same like section in chapter 20, and it's pretty big, so it's like we're all on that
Looking
right
at some
now.
of the same things.
Yeah, the do and do not do, that was or the desire you shared was one of the other ones I was looking at as well this week.
So this is my second time around. I started with a partner in December of 2019, and we were able to go straight through until April, and we were both here at the center, and we finished up here at the center. And we took an hour every day, absolutely without fail, probably beginning in January until April. And it was so useful in beginning to peel off all these layers of beliefs and desires to see what I was responsible for, what my thinking, my beliefs were creating, and then being able to feel lighter and lighter because of the joining. And then Doug's and I joined here at the center about 8-9 weeks ago. And it's just really interesting going through the second time. One of the important parts for me is honesty of God. And there's not a lot of time, as you were saying, Laura, for stories or, whatever. And Doug's and I, the kind of partnership we have is there's no stories. There's not even images. We're just very honest about what we're hearing and what we're seeing. And we spend a lot of time in silence going deep. And then what comes up is very profound. Again, at putting a separation between what I think is going on and my opening to what is truth. And so the whole, and breaking up that whole sense of separation. Yeah. And one of the desires that we looked at this last week was wanting to author ourselves, wanting to create myself. And that is such a big deal with me. In my personal identity, Mary's, we've all been there, done that. And so to get to the point where I don't have to rely on that anymore, those stories, or what I thought was truth, it's just letting it all be where it is and not having to dwell on it anymore, and just deeply looking at the foundational beliefs and the desire that then is creating experiences for me. So this whole thing of authoring myself was actually something we also brought up in the center light circle, and we're going at it for a couple of hours. 7 of us going at it for a couple of hours. So I guess this whole focus on looking at what is true and what is not true with a partner, and allowing Jesus to speak through us. And then our partner comes up with things we wouldn't have thought of, and just opens it up and allows it to be richer and deeper. And that's certainly been the experience here with both partners. And I'm, just really grateful. Yeah. So I'm going to have Doug's come over.
Yeah, I was going to say also that the stories are falling away, and it is becoming away, and it's like a deepening into the stillness and just letting him be in charge of the whole thing. So it's, Yep.
Okay, Doug's.
Hi, Doug.
Right. Okay, so my experience with chapter 20 is like when I started it when I was in India. And it is really profound for me. It's like seeing how we have all these desires, and We are not aware of those desires, how they are running our life. It's like chapter 20 is direct. It's guiding you directly towards it, like just to see it, what's below our level of awareness, and take 100% responsibility of everything that's occurring, which is very difficult for me to accept it and say, yeah, this is my creation. It's like, hell no, it is all God's problem, not mine. He created all this, not me. So he's supposed to take care of all this. I'm not responsible for all this. So seeing those desires are in me is really helpful to come out of all our so-called miseries and getting lost in the thoughts and stories and believing that something outside will help me. So this clearings really helps you to take back that power we have within us, to take it and to see it, that my happiness is my responsibility and nobody else. Nobody else can affect me if I want them to affect me.
Yeah. It's gentle too. It's gentle and direct.
Yeah, and it's just happiness. Doing those clearing is happiness because you know where it's leading you. Yeah, and it's so easy and effortless that you actually don't have to do anything just to say, Jesus, just show me, and you are just been guided every time, and it clears on its own. You don't have to do anything. Looking at all these desires so closely is like we are looking at over here day in, day out, like, and it's really helpful, and it needs that 24/7 looking to come out of it. But yeah, I do sometimes, not sometimes, all the time. It's like, yeah, this is the time of God and this is my time. So I still need to work on that, that it is all God time. And I need that 24/7 looking. It needs a deep penetration of that.
Yeah, chapter 20 gets you into that that way of looking, so that you're doing that more and more throughout the day. You're seeing all the desires, and then it's like, I need help. And so it's like, Jesus, just developing that relationship that it's kind of been like, no, 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 no. And now I'm like, the more I look, it's like, oh, okay. maybe this whole no to God was not such a good idea. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thanks.
The other thing he was showing me was how I think what is heaven is actually hell, and what is hell is actually heaven. So like at first it was like, at the very first, when Kay mentioned doing like the chapter 20 challenge, I was like, all right, I'm going for this. And then not too soon after that, it was like, whoa, no. Like, all the resistance was coming up. And then, but then it's just staying with it every day, for an hour looking. And that's just brought on like a sense of urgency for looking at the desires, because I want to see what what I'm hiding it from myself. So it's like, okay, wait, what is going on here? And yeah, it's also learning what honesty of God is, like Mary's saying, to really look at all the pride I've had and all the arrogance I've had in not wanting to take responsibility for my mind. So it's a gift.
Kathy, we see you there. Do you have any questions or anything get stirred up for you as we were sharing?
No, just listening.
Mm-hmm. Have you been working on desires, releasing any particular desires with anyone? You've done it with Kay, I know, and Renee some.
Renee is really the only person I've been joining with. And I can't recall because we joined yesterday, but it was the first time in a couple weeks, I think. So I just know that I think I know yesterday and one of the last times we joined, Renee was more in touch with it than me, but like she's gotten patience and divine timing and trusting. And when those messages come through, I can't, for me, I can't help but think does it relate to my situation and my, my health issues, because there's so much fear around my health. And so I'm not sure if I forgot to ask Renee if when that came through, if you had any sense what that was relating, if it was relating to anything specifically.
Yeah, we were looking at the desire for weakness and delay at looking at that desire. That's what we joined on. Yeah, what I'm hearing now is this: we have some new partners coming in to chapter 20, and so we're kind of looking at any resistance to that, to actually to chapter 20 and the timing of chapter 20. So that's another thing we can look at in these joinings, is like anything that's coming up around chapter 20 and doing chapter 20 together, and any desires that are coming up related to doing chapter 20.
What I'm hearing is that just the willingness to join with someone, Kathy, like you've been doing with Renee, and I know you've joined with Kay, and you and I joined, I think, some months ago, starting to look at the desire as something that I'm responsible for. It's my desire to have an experience. And that's really the bottom line, in all of this work, and that is to see how powerful our minds are to create experiences that we can then ask Jesus about for reinterpretation and for healing, because the body, as we all know, the body reflects our thinking. And so to begin to, especially, of course, we're talking about chapter 20 right now, or any desire that comes up in joining with the mighty, to go with Jesus in a moment of light. We hear all this, but I mean, it really works. If we're following his guidelines, it really works, because it takes us to places that we just would not go on our own without that guidance. And what I'm hearing is that just by starting to chip away at being responsible, not wanting to be responsible for our own mind, as Renee was saying, and owning these desires, because they're showing up. If they're showing up, then they're showing up for healing. And even though at times it feels like I just want to be angry with God because of, this is showing up and that's showing up, that really there's something that's coming up to be healed. And that's what the looking deeply at the desires brings us to. Underneath it all is we're making it all up. And that's really hard to hear. It was really hard for me to hear at first, even now. There have been a number of assignments that Jesus has given recently where I'm just like, no way, that is not going to happen. Well, I did it anyway. And the results are really remarkable. And the same is true of joining in chapter 20. I can't do this. I don't have the time, blah, 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 whatever, and just stepping into it and doing it anyway. It's like, Kay has said this quite often, and I certainly found it to be true, that until I step into something that I don't think I want to do, I don't know what's on the other side. But when I get to the other side, I'm like, oh, Jesus, thank you. Wow, I had no idea. I was too busy resisting. Yeah.
It's like, no, I didn't really know what it was going to be like. I had ideas about it, and also what he was showing me is how, like, all the desires from A Course in Miracles are given, but there's also it's kind of like there's other desires too as well, that come up
that may be triggered, that day.
Yeah, and so it's kind of like an opening up to these other more specific desires that we have, and then we look at those together as well. So,
and the joining breaks down that feeling of I'm all alone doing this. When it's just really remarkable, just joining with another person with the same intent, and joining in prayer with Jesus, because chapter 20 is all about, okay, we're not talking a lot. We're just going to check in with Jesus. Jesus, what do you want us to see here? What do we need to see for the healing of our mind in this moment? And then listening, and then speaking what we hear. And just that practice of checking in with that inner guide just grows and grows until it becomes clearer and clearer, and more important in terms of the choices we make and our thinking.
Is it all right to add something? I can't see your face, Kathy, so were you responding?
You couldn't hear Kathy?
I was just checking to see if Kathy wanted to respond to you, because I think were you talking directly?
No. I'm muting because the gardener is here and right outside my window. So.
Perfect. To what Mary was saying, Jesus has been showing us like a cheese board with a cheese roll and the slices of the cheese, and to just take each slice. And he used that with me yesterday because I figured out pretty early in life that it was my mind that was veiled. So God wasn't hiding from me. I was hiding from God, that kind of thing, And so, and with this vibrational awareness, there's this tendency to want to just go through it all, like blast through it in a way. Because I'm totally aware it's all made up and how ridiculous it is and all that good stuff. And how laughable it is, except for the pain stories that we've created that do look pretty intense on the planet. And he's just like, it's like, in a way, he's suggesting reining that in a little bit because he's like, it will blow you out. And so he's just like, just take it a slice at a time. And I've always been like that, even in life. I've been a fast mover. I'm a very productive, individual. I call myself kind of a Martha in the Bible. I'd be the one in the kitchen getting everything ready for everybody else, to have this amazing experience. And so to do that, to just do this, with the self-inquiry process, or the inner gazing, as I've called it for a while, as it arises. And that will just naturally, we don't have to look for what to look at. It's right here. It's right here. Not complete.
What I'm hearing is that all these practices, chapter 20, any kind of joining, the light circles, they're all about one thing, and that is listening to the inner voice and checking in, whatever name we use for it. It's all about that relationship, and everything else just begins to fall away because we're depending more and more on hearing and listening and following. So are we complete? Can check in. Anyone have any more questions or comments? Anything that's come up?
I'll just share the safety, that it's so safe to join with him. I'm complete.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll see you in 2 weeks,
Yep. We'll be back.
if not before.
Great.
And I'll be joining with all the partners as well. So just let me know when you're available, and we'll see you.
Okay. Got to coordinate with
Bye.
Bye,
Thank
Captain.
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.